You are right where you're supposed to be. And I know, it's a simple sentence, but if you've ever wrestled with doubt, disappointment, or delay, this simple sentence can hit like a lightning bolt of truth or feel like a cruel joke, right? But hear me out. Today, I want to tell you something that may go against the grain of what you've been conditioned to believe or what you do believe, especially in a culture that's obsessed with next steps, hustle, and highlight reels. Okay, so here it is. You are not late, you are not behind, and you are not stuck. You are right where you're supposed to be. And let's sit with that for a little bit. We're going to have a little chit chat right now. The Bible is full of and yes, I'm going to use the Bible, but it's full of stories of people who did not feel like they were in the right place, but they were. For example, Joseph was in a prison, Moses was in the wilderness, David was hiding in a cave, and Jesus was born in a manger, not a palace. And yet, God was not absent from those locations. Instead, he was the architect of those moments. Let's look at what Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1 says. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Right? Did you catch that? Not just time, but purpose. That means your current season isn't just a delay. It's a part of a bigger design. God isn't only present in your victories, He's also present in your waiting, in your wandering, and in your wandering. I don't know if you catch that. Even Jesus himself had to wait 30 years before stepping into his public ministry. And if the Son of God could wait in the shadows, so can you. I'm gonna get into some philosophy here, but just bear with me a minute. Philosophers like Soren Kierkegaard, he's a Christian existentialist. That word. He talked about the necessity of going through despair in order to arrive at faith, right? This is what he said. Life can be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. What may feel like stagnation now may be the soil where your roots are growing deeper. Even Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, and he was also a Stoic philosopher, he wrote these words: the impediment to action advances action. And this simply means that what stands in the way eventually becomes the way. So often we are taught to escape where we are.
Leave. You gotta go somewhere else to figure it out. You can't stay here.
You've heard the saying that says a king has no rule in his own country, or something like that. But God may be calling you to embrace where you are. What you call a delay, God calls development. What you call stuck, God calls stillness. What you call failure, He may be using as fertilizer for your future. Let's just go back to the Bible just for a little bit. Let's go back to the story of Joseph, to be exact. He had dreams of leadership. You know, the corn, the cows, the sun, the moon, and stars bowing down. And instead, he was thrown into a pit by his brothers. Can you imagine? And just hear me out for a sec. This is what happened to Joseph. He was thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery by his brothers, then falsely accused, and then thrown into prison. Now, if you judged Joseph's life in real time, you'd say he was moving backwards, right? That's what anybody would think. But here's what the word says in Genesis 39 and verse 2. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. What? Successful? In slavery? In prison? Well, yeah. Because success in God's eyes is not about where you are, but who is with you. Strange, huh? Let's look at this from another angle. We're going back to philosophy. Nietzsche, though he was not a religious man. Nietzsche, though he was not a religious man, he famously said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." And when you understand that this moment has meaning, you stop resenting it. This moment that you're in right now, You stop comparing it. You start cooperating with it. Your pain becomes your teacher. Your silence becomes sacred. And your obscurity, that becomes your cocoon. You are not buried. You are planted. You see, before Jesus healed the sick, walked on water, or even raised the dead, he waited. He waited. He learned. He served. And then the time came. And here's what Galatians 4 says about this. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his son. Fullness, timing, divine alignment. Some of you are so obsessed with getting out of your season, the season you're in right now. You're so obsessed with getting out that you're missing what's being poured into you right now. And I can say the same for me. I think that way. I'm not saying I used to think that way. I think that way right now. So this is not just speaking to you, it's also speaking to me. But here's what Psalm 37:23 says. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Did you hear that? Steps, not leaps, not elevators, steps. God is a God of order, guys. He's a God of detail, and he's a God of process. You may feel like you're going in circles, but circles prepare you for cycles. Bars. You may feel overlooked, but you're being observed by heaven. Now, if you trust the process, trust the pruning, trust the quiet. The God who formed galaxies out of nothing is forming purpose in your present place. Now, let me just close this off because I don't want to be talking your ear off. Let me just close this off right now. Right now, your journey may not look like what you imagined, but it's producing something in you that success never could. It's producing strength, depth, wisdom, faith. And Romans 8:28 reminds us, and I'm sure you all, most of us watching this, all know what Romans 8:28 says. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. Not some things, all things. Even this, even the silence, even the job you didn't get, even the relationship that didn't last, even the opportunity that slipped away. They're all just brush strokes in the masterpiece God is painting with your life. So I implore you to breathe, exhale, breathe a sigh of relief. You're not forgotten and you're not forsaken. You are right where you're supposed to be.